All right, welcome back everyone to another episode of Startup Fuck Up. Today I have Glenn Gardone from Pennsylvania in the United States joining us, and Glenn has a very rich background in consumer packaged goods. He spent more than 24 years holding different positions like VP of Global Sales, Chief Growth Officer across various companies, from companies like Kellogg's to I think Tribe Mediterranean Food, which was acquired by Nestle. So I think you have a lot of experience to share with us. So thank you for taking the time and sharing your rich experience with both myself and your wisdom with our listeners. So, Glenn, I'd love to hear more about you. Tell me a bit about your journey, kind of what brought you to where you are today, what drives you, what excites you.
Sure, Chen. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's greatly appreciated. And hopefully I could share a little insight and, the audience will find it interesting. That's what I always try and do. A little bit about my background. As you said, I spent the first half of my career in what we would call large consumer packaged goods companies, Kellogg, Pepsi. And I was one of those folks, and proud to say, I was one of those folks that had no idea what they were going to do with their life. I wasn't lucky enough at 20 years old to find my passion and run for it. I didn't find my passion until I was in my 40s. But in the meantime, I didn't waste my journey. And that's how I like to look at it. It was a journey for me. I had some amazing bosses. I had some real, assholes, to excuse my language, but we've all had those. But I learned from them too. I learned what not to do when I got the chance to be in a leadership role. And I've spent the last half of my career, as you said, for lack of a better phrase, the private equity side. Smaller companies. I was a number 3 employee for one organization. Other organizations, my team and I would step in and help grow the business to build it up so that a larger organization could come do what they do best and grow it bigger than we ever could, because they had the abilities where we didn't. So I learned how to manage a business quickly. And what I mean by that is, in the private equity side, long term is 6 months, and short term is what are we doing over the next 4 hours. And it's definitely a different mentality than a wonderful mentor I had at Kellogg. Again, thinking I was a hot shot, which I wasn't, but thinking I was. I had a mentor who said to me, he sat me down. He said, "Glenn, how long has Kellogg been around before you came?" And I said, 100 years. He said, "How long do you think they're going to be around after you leave? Whether you leave to go somewhere else or you retire?" I said, "Probably another 100 years." And he laughed and he said, "That's right. So slow down." And it was a completely different mentality and mindset, where you go from a large company or employee 10,604 to
Mm-hmm.
employee number 1 or employee number 2. And so, we've been pretty successful. We've sold several companies, and just had sold a company before I actually met with the Red team, the 2 families that own us. And I
Mm-hmm.
had known about Red Chocolate really through my travels. I didn't know about the owners or anything like that. I just knew I liked the product. I'm at that spot in my life where I try to eat a little smarter, as I say. And I say that because people have called Red Chocolate healthy chocolate. I hate that term. We are not healthy chocolate. There's no such thing as healthy chocolate. That is marketing 101.
Mm-hmm.
We are what we like to say is a smart indulgence, because chocolate is indulgent. And if you just eat chocolate, you're going to gain weight and you're not going to have a really good diet. But you want to indulge. Everybody wants to indulge. And so, that's why we call ourselves smart indulgence. If you're going to indulge, enjoy a little, enjoy it a little smarter.
Yeah.
You know, Fast forward to me joining the organization. The ownership group had called me and said, "Hey, your name's popped up a few times. We're thinking of coming to the US. We're in 18 countries, a beautiful job, great people, just everything they stood for. You could tell when you talk to people if they're, if they're going to be upright or if they're, just trying to, skate through." And so I met them in New York, and it was a 4-hour meeting, and it was the, representatives of the 2 families plus who would become my boss. She was there. And I spent the first 3.5 hours, Jen, telling them why they didn't want to come to the US.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody sees dollar signs because of the, North American consumer. And I told them, look, you got a great business. Things are going well. You come to the US. I've seen the North American market swallow up great companies, and spit them out and they go bankrupt. And I said, you don't know what you're doing if you don't have the right team. You're a European company, stay a European company. And after about 3.5 hours, the person who was going to become my boss, she looked at me, she said, "Are you done, Glenn?" I said, yeah, I'm done. I think I've gotten across what I wanted to. And she said, "So when do you want to start?" And I just looked at her and shook my head. I said, "You're either crazy or you know something I don't." And
Mhm.
she smiled and I said, "You know what? If you're willing to do this, I think there's a market for this type of product. There is a, as I like to say, quote, a reason for being. Because
Mhm.
in any business, whether you're a consultant, whatever you're doing, there's got to be that reason for being. If you're just going to be a wannabe or you're going to be like somebody else, there's no reason for you. They've already got that something else."
Mhm.
So I agreed. And so we spent the first 6 months really Americanizing the company and
Mhm.
getting it ready for being in North America. And that's supply chain, the marketing in place, sales team. Again, our reason for being. I remember when we started with the packaging, it was funny because again, European company, there's a certain way to do packaging, and being a North American, want to be a North American company, another way of doing packaging. And I sat down with the team. I said, okay, I said, first things first, we've got to add non-GMO to our certification to the package. And they looked at me like, well, everything's non-GMO. I said, in Europe, everything's non-GMO. And in North America, everything's not non-GMO. We need to do it. So we went through and redesigned the package so that we can tell the story that we wanted to tell while consumers were, whether they were online or whether they in store, again, wherever they saw us, they could understand what we were trying to accomplish and again, what our reason for being was. And that was October 3 years ago. And then 5 months later, we went into a global pandemic that shut everything down.
Mhm.
So no matter how good of a leader or manager you are, I don't know anybody who could have planned for that. So really, it was a lot of, okay, what are we going to do now? And there were a lot of meetings, a lot of calls, and by the grace of a passionate team here at Red, our Red family, we were able to be extremely successful, which is great. And love to say it's me, but it's not. I just get the chance to lead the organization.
Right. Such a rich introduction. There's so much I want to tease out of that. But maybe the first point I want to kind of touch on is you talked a bit about red being a smart indulgence. Can you elaborate a bit more on what that smart element is? Like, how is red different from regular chocolate?
Sure. So red chocolate is a no sugar added chocolate. So we're crafted using no refined sugars. And if you look at some of the American chocolates and, North American chocolates, you're going to find they're about 60% sugar. Refined sugar is terrible for multiple reasons. I won't get into that. And you
Mhm.
could look it up and see. And so what we've done is we've taken that out of our ingredient panel. We have made sure we've only used non-GMO ingredients. Yes, we're kosher. Yes, we're gluten-free. We don't use palm oil. You're going to find palm oil. Palm oil is really a cheap additive, and you don't need it. And again, it's not good for the environment. And so therefore, we don't use it. So what we've done is to sweeten our products. What in Europe, what it's called melon sugar. When you bite into a beautiful piece of watermelon and that juice that runs down your chin,
Mm.
those are natural sugars. So God forbid if you were in a had a certain situation with diabetes, for instance, you can't eat chocolate, needless to say. But with our chocolate, because of the fact that we're natural sugars, we're naturally occurring sugars, the body can be able to handle it and be able to enjoy. So whether you're keto and you love dark, whether you're vegan, whether you're Weight Watchers, whether you just love a good chocolate, and the biggest difference I tell people is between European and American chocolate. And
Mm.
I'll tell you, so for instance, if you go to our dark chocolate with orange and almond, which is actually my second favorite that we have. The idea, and I tell people very simply, because I'm a visual person, think of it like a glass of red wine. The
Mhm.
coca is the base of that wine. And then the different hints in the wine, for instance, we've got almond and orange. We're not a nut cluster. When you eat the coca, you taste the beautiful coca that we have from the Ivory Coast. We've been working with the same farmers. We're actually going into their second generation farmers, which is awesome for us. And what you do is then you'll have that hint of orange. Our oranges are from California. And excuse me, our oranges are from Spain. Our almonds are from California. And, then you'll get the taste of almonds. You'll get the nuttiness. The idea is to really enjoy it. Can you suck it down? Yeah, if you wanted to, but you don't have to. Enjoy it. If you're going to indulge, have a little pleasure with it. And so that's really the difference between red and even other European chocolates, or especially, North American chocolates. We're not trying to push out 47 million bars in an hour. It's not what we do.
What a delectable description of your second favorite chocolate. I'm curious to hear what your first favorite chocolate tastes like.
So we worked on my favorite chocolate for almost 2 years. We as a company, we have 11 global patents. And one of those patents is on a product that we launched this last April. And it's actually fast becoming one of our top SKUs here in North America. And that is our blonde chocolate. Now, our blonde chocolate is a caramelized white chocolate. Now, you're probably saying, Glenn, caramelized, that's sugar. We're no sugar added. So what we've done is we've actually taken milk from Holstein cows, and we whip it at a certain temperature, at a certain speed, and we pull the natural sugars out of it. And then we pour that into our white cocoa base. There is nothing like it in the world. We're the only ones that have it. And like I said, it took us several years to really craft and design what we felt was one of a kind. I mean, it's just that simple. And that's my favorite. You always like a good milk chocolate bar. Don't get me wrong. I always like a nice dark chocolate. But, if I'm going to do a fondue, I'll probably do a little dark chocolate. If I just want to sit at my desk and I just need a little break, I'm going to grab Blonde Bar.
Sounds delicious. White chocolate is my favorite as well. So,
is it? Yeah. I can't wait for you to try the blonde. You're going to love it.
Great. You mentioned a few very interesting points that I'd like to dig a bit deeper. So one of the things you talked about was, when you first came across red, you talked about discouraging them or talking about why the US market might not be the right market for them. Could you tell our listeners who are not familiar with the difference between a North American market and a global market, what are some kind of things to be mindful about that are different in how CPG companies run in the States versus elsewhere in the world?
Sure. So the biggest, there's two. One of the big ones is really on the supply chain side of the business. I have never been successful, and I've run some pretty large global brands that are 20, 40 years old. You have to have a successful supply chain that's rooted within the country you're working in. Because if you don't, it never fails, especially if you think about what our supply chain has gone through over the last 3+ years now. It is a recipe for failure. So making sure that we had a supply chain that could help us in our growth, yet not negatively affect us as we do our day-to-day operations. Because remember, all of our products are made in our facility. We don't, go out and hire a third party or anything like that. It's all within our facility, which is a green certified facility, and we have to bring it over from Europe. Well, chocolate, we want to make sure is always fresh. So you have to constantly be able to rotate out your chocolates, again, based on your sales. And it's like anything else. It's, if you owned a restaurant, you want the freshest ingredients all the time. You don't want to run out, because if you run out, you're not satisfying the consumer. Consumer comes in excited to buy, X, and all of a sudden, sorry, we're out of that, but we've got Y. It's like, well, I don't want Y. Wanted X. And so, it's one of those things where you have to make sure your supply chain is strong. The second thing, which is just as important, is your marketing message. What we talk about in the US is different than what we talk about in Canada, which is different than what we talk about in Poland, or the UK, or, each of the different countries. They have not only their way of thinking about things, they also have their way of understanding the messages delivered and how those messages are being delivered. So, if you try to make everything bland, everything fit the same way, it's failure. And I've seen companies that had great marketing ideas, but then when they brought it to another country, it made no sense. It just didn't make sense. Nobody did the work that needed to be put in to say, hey, you know what? Here in this country, this is not the message we want to deliver. And so I think those two things are probably the biggest. And then also making sure that when you are working in that country, that you're working with partners that you can believe and trust in, because again, as you know, your podcast states, it will be a fuck up. I mean, it's just that simple. If you don't have the right people in place that you can trust, then you're going to be in trouble. And somebody like myself who's been doing this a long time, it's not a widget to me. I walk into a store or I see red on TV. It's like watching one of your kids graduate. It's a very prideful moment because I know a lot of work went behind that message, that spot to get to where we are. So, again, I think somebody who wants to move outside of their borders, you have to make sure you have the diligence. There are times to invest quickly, and there are other times that you have to say, maybe not. And I think what you need to do is you need to conquer where you are first. I mean that from wherever you are. I've seen brands that have tried to be everywhere, even just within the United States, and they failed. So you need to make sure that your business model is proper, that and when you test things, I can't believe how many times I've been in meetings where people have tested things and it's been successful, and I said, okay, so how do we take that and tease it out and make it even bigger? And everybody looks at it, they're like, well, I don't think we can. I think that'll be too expensive, or I think it'll be this. It's like, then it really wasn't a test. That really, you didn't think through it. We need to think through it.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing. That's a lot to dig into. I'm curious, you mentioned a bit about the messaging piece. I think in the journey of your introduction, you talked a bit about having just descriptive terms like non-GMO, because in certain places, that's kind of already the de facto. What else have you learned about how messaging differs in the American audience or marketplace versus the global marketplace?
Well, I think it's not only the messaging, it's how you deliver the messaging. Again, having done this for quite some time, there are certain ways that we've done things. And the really exciting piece on it is the certain ways that we've done things over time have completely changed. Right now, the days of having that quote unquote shopping experience is very limited. You see more and more people buying online. That's not even what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is even within the brick and mortar area, you find people spending more time understanding the message and what they're going to do before they even go into the store. It's not one of those, hey, let me see what's out there kind of thing while I'm at the shelf. People, consumers, no matter where you are, want to know about it before they even get into their car to go to their destination. So really, the way that you deliver the messaging has drastically changed. And again, that's one of those areas where do I invest? Where do I over invest? Knowing that I might not be getting the ROI I need today, but I am able to have a healthier tomorrow. There is a fine balance, Chen, of being successful today so that you can have a healthy tomorrow. Because if you're always looking at tomorrow, you're going to fail today and there won't be a tomorrow. But if you're only looking at today and constantly looking at today, you're transactional. You'll never be ready for tomorrow. And I think really having the team that we had was the reason that we were able to not only, thrive, but truly succeed when the pandemic hit and being able to deliver our message. And the message itself, again, based on the area of the world you're in, it's really from a sizing perspective. The amount of time, if you look at the North American market is probably one of the shortest messaging platforms in the world. You have to get your understanding to the consumer faster than you do anywhere else in the world. It's because of the breakneck speed we in North America seem to be going at every day.
One piece that you also talked about in the messaging component that I want to dig a bit, expand a bit more is you talked a bit about how in messaging there is, or at least in the brand, when you're thinking about, let's say, a product like chocolate, there are a lot of other competitors out there. There are a lot of other people in the space, and you don't just want to be the same as anyone else. So you talked a bit about how when you're communicating that messaging, the how matters as much as what the message is. And I really believe that kind of how you communicate a very authentic brand voice is by leading with the brand's value first, talking a bit about, what is that brand personality, that brand value. I love to hear your thoughts on how do you approach that piece of quote unquote competitor differentiation, or at least the brand value and positioning.
Well, it's a good, excellent question. So I'm going to take one word that you said a couple of times, and that's value, because that's where I think people really don't hit hard enough. What is your value? Now, remember, when working with a consumer, when talking to a consumer, the value of one consumer, what they think is a value, could be completely different than another. Chances are, if I lined up 5 people who eat red, I would get 3 different reasons to eat red, that the reason they eat that red, whether it be a health situation, whether it be a social change situation, whether it be I tried it on a lark and I like it. So I think what you have to do when building that brand message, you really have to understand what the value is. And if it takes you more than a minute to be able to explain the value, then you need to sit down and refigure your value. I can tell you right now, our value is simple. Our value is we're a European crafted, no sugar added chocolate that's non-GMO, gluten-free, kosher. We use only cocoa from the Ivory Coast. We use no palm oil. And at the shelf, we're a financial value. I did that in about 18 seconds. And that tells you red. Now, from there, you may have heard, you know what, they're non-GMO. I like that. Or you may have heard, oh, they're a value at the shelf. Oh, I like that because I've got to worry about my money. So again, it's really understanding what it is you're trying to deliver. What is that value? If you're a, consultant, what value to bring? I save companies money. How do you save companies money? Now you got it, as opposed to, well, what I like to do is, and blah, 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 blah. Or even if you're, a restaurant, what are you known for? Oh, we got tables and chairs and we got beautiful blue walls and but what are you known for? We're known for an amazing pasta or whatever it is, And so that's understanding your value and being able to deliver that message. Because we'll go back to the restaurant. If you say, we make an amazing pasta, guess what? 2 people don't like pasta for whatever reason. Well, the fact is with red, and I say 2 people, because red chocolate, when we are purchased, we have an 80% repeat rate. And what that means is, again, my days at Kellogg and other places, when we would launch items, we'd look for about a 30% repeat rate, 40% repeat rate. If we could get to those numbers, we knew we had a winner. So we knew off the beat, 6 to 7 people that tried us out of 10, we just weren't for them. But if we can grab those 3 or 4, we were in great shape. So the fact that at Red, we can keep 8 out of 10, that was another way to know that our value and our business model was working. And then I think, again, that's part of the reason for the extreme growth. We're I hate the term, but people use it. We're very sticky when it comes to consumers. Once consumers try us, they love us because they say, you know what? I didn't have to give anything up, and I'm actually doing something a little better for myself. I like this.
Great. I love that answer. I'm going to try and expand on it as well. So what I'm hearing from you there is the picking a path in terms of the value to lean into, and there's no wrong or right answer there, because I'm noticing, like, you could always say that your product is better than any other competitor product out there, but how is your product better? Like, what is the angle that you are leaning on? And that is going to become sort of the brand value. Another thing that I want to talk about on the value front is not so much the value in terms of what you get or what something is worth, but also personal values. and brand values. Because what I've noticed is over time, not only with consumer packaged good companies, is that people tend to buy into products or buy into companies where the brand resonates with their personal identity. So I'll give an example here. So with let's say with Apple, someone might buy an Apple product because they believe that it resonates with them being a change maker, them being someone who's artistic, them being someone who's at the forefront of technology. Same so with someone buying Red, it might be because they care about the health of themselves and their families. They care about the health of the planet. So certain brand values like that kind of help shape that authentic messaging that you communicate with as well.
Chin, I couldn't agree with you more. And, the sad part on that, though, is, because double-edged sword, call it what you'd like. There are companies out there that are trying to take advantage of that situation, and they're doing very basic things, thinking they're doing something wonderful. And it really doesn't make a difference. And I think consumers have to look deeper into it, meaning, it's like anything else. When you see it over and over and over and over again, it becomes less enticing. And that's why, we are the same way today as we were day one. There are certain things we as a company will never do. There are certain things as a company that we will continue to do. And each time we do it, we get better at it. And what's really cool about it is the red consumer, we call them part of our red family. We know that they're listening. We each quarter we pick a charity and we'll match donations. And I remember when we first started this, again, I had no idea, Chin, would it be successful? I was like, you know what? If we can get a couple of $1,000s and give it to a charity, that's cool. Good. We need to help them. And you didn't have to buy anything. I mean, you literally could just go on our site and say, I want to give $5 to this, and we'd match it. And we could never see it again. Because, again, it wasn't about the sale. It's not about the transaction. And so, we had folks that would come on and, they would maybe buy something and then they would give some money to the charity. And I remember meeting with the team and we were going over the first month that we did this. And again, Chen, it was a couple of $1,000s. It wasn't a lot of money, but I was like, okay, guys, did this work? What are we doing? They laughed. They said, Glenn, they said, just so you know, it's about 3 to 4% of the consumers will actually give something if they see something like this on a site or if they see it within their daily lives. 3 to 4% will go, yeah, okay, I agree with that. That's cool. You came in at 29%. I said, really? They said, we were blown away with the numbers. And I was like, what does that mean? Is it because we picked the right charity? And they said, no, the reason is because the people who buy red are believing in you guys. They think, all right, you know what? They're doing this for the right reasons. Yeah, I'll throw a couple of bucks in, what the hell? And they'll match it. That'll be good.
Yep.
And so that was a great feeling because, again, you always worry, that, when you're sitting, with your team and you come up with an idea, the worry is, is it truly what we think we're going to do and what we're going to be about. And around the table all the time, I tell people, look, if we believe in it and nobody else does, oh, well, we believe in it. And if it's the right thing and we feel it's the right thing, then it's the right thing for the organization.
Yeah, I believe the term in the social venture world to describe what you're talking about is what they call greenwashing. And what is sometimes interesting here is in some cases, greenwashing is unintentional. And it's not just about companies kind of tooting their horn about how good they are doing, but sometimes in your case, like the company authentically wants to do something good, but they might be not taking on the right initiatives and just simply pouring money into charity and donations without being mindful about how that money is being spent. And it's not to say that every company needs to donate a part of their proceeds to anything. There are many different ways that you can kind of give back and do good with your business, not just through donations. So yeah,
Agreed.
making sure that you align those with your company's purpose, your company's values. Love it.
You know, it's funny, Chin, you mentioned that. It made me think back. So we run a program here in our community where we have kids from school. We have a high school, and then we have a couple of colleges,
Mm-hmm.
and they come in and they work with us, and they can work with us for a month. And we have different areas. If people want to learn about supply chain, or they want to learn about finance, or if they want to understand a little bit about marketing, and so they come in and they could stay for a certain period, and they get paid, and they could stay. And we've got some folks that have been here for 6-7 months.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting because I had a call from one of the folks at one of the local high schools, and so we're talking, and the gentleman said, "Hey, I want to thank you." I said, "You're welcome. What for?" And he said, "Because you're making a difference." He said, "I want to have you come in, and I want you to talk to the kids." And I laughed. I said, "Nobody wants to listen to me." He's like, "No, believe me. What you have to say is important, and these kids need to hear it." He said, because you're taking the time, and I talk to the kids after they come, and they're like, "I never knew work could be so much fun. It's really weird." And it's a good feeling, because you want to have a positive influence professionally, but you want to have one personally too, because again, Red is in my DNA, and my DNA, is part of Red now at this point. And same with my entire organization. I remember, and I'll give you an example of being a leader, but I guess being a servant leader, I guess the best way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
The pandemic hit, and everything was shut down, and we all remember what that was like. And there was news coming from everywhere, and nobody really knew what was going on. And the head of my supply chain, she's been with me for, oh boy, 10-12 years now. And she called me. She said, "Hey, I want to let you know we're going back into the office, into the warehouse." I said, "Whoa, what are you talking about?" She said, "Glenn, we got to ship. The team has to." I said, "Well, look, I'm coming in then too, but we're going to do it right. And we're going to do the steps necessary." And we did all the steps necessary to ensure the safety of every team member,
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to still be able to deliver. And that was a good feeling. It's like, oh, that was nice. But a couple of days into it, I get a call from my head of marketing, and she said, "I heard you're going to the office." I said, "Yeah, but look, don't worry about it. I'm just a blown." And she said, "No, I spoke to my team. We want to come in the office too. We can help you guys. There's things we have to do." And it was really at that moment where I said, wow, this isn't just a bunch of employees. This is a
Mm-hmm.
family. These are people that care and that want to succeed, and success to them again was all different levels, what success meant to them. But just seeing this team together, and laughing, and spending time, I always tell folks, if you want to know how well your team works together and likes being together, hold a dinner for them. And I don't care if it's pizzas brought into the office. If they grab their pizza and go their separate ways, you've got issues. If they grab pizza and sit around and talk and laugh and joke and having a good time, you got a team that wants to be together. And I'm proud to say we have some 2-hour lunches here, which is pretty fun.
Since we are on the topic of COVID, I'm curious to hear if you've developed any tips or insights around kind of what is your playbook when it comes to navigating times of risk, not necessarily COVID. Like one example I can think of is often I hear the advice, don't stress the things that are out of your control, and focus instead on what you can control and what you can do in those moments. Do you have any advice around, like, if let's say that there's an oncoming recession, for example, or
Mhm.
what else could happen, like another future pandemic or maybe something else, how would you kind of do you have certain foundational principles that you use to steer the boat when you're navigating those waters?
Yeah, no, you have to. As a leader, you have to, and you have to ensure that everybody within your organization, especially your direct reports, you have to make sure that they fully understand the communication flow and what's going to happen. For myself personally, you try to plan. We'll call it forecast, but forecast doesn't mean numbers. It means forecasting what the future is going to look like based on what you know today. And as you go through that quote unquote forecast, you zig and you zag. You can't be the Rome is burning person and not looking. Not sweating what's out of your control. I'm sorry, I disagree with that, and I'm probably one of not many, but I still worry about things that are out of my control, because if they still affect the business, then you have to understand how it affect the business and why it showed up. One thing, and if you ask every employee, what's probably one of the most popular sayings Glenn says is, I call it punching through the mud. And what I mean by that is there's always going to be things around, and things are going to happen, some massive and others not so, speed bump wise. And it's okay to take a knee, because we all have to take a knee. But you have to get up and you have to keep punching through the mud, because you have to be able to get through it. As a baseball analogy, if you were the greatest baseball player, batter, we'll say, that meant that almost 5 out of 10 times you struck out, grounded out, or flew out. Because if you could bat 500, you would be the greatest hitter of all time in baseball over the last 100 plus years. Try that in business, and you'll be closed in 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
So, what we try and do is, you always plan. And our planning process we do, when I have, a meeting and I've got, say, my marketing team here, everybody that's at the table deserves a seat at the table, because they're there and their voice needs to be heard. Now, everybody understands that, your opinion matters, but we may not be able to take any of your opinion. We may take 10% of your opinion, but know that we still want to hear what you have to say. Chin, I am not the smartest man at the table. I always try to surround myself with smarter people, because, again, I want that experience and expertise. The little bit of fear or the bead of sweat that'll drip down a person's forehead, as the CEO, as the leader, when a problem does come to your desk, it's usually gone through the experts and they've said, you know what, we're not sure. We need to talk to Glenn about this. And so that's why you have to be aware of what's happening, but you can't be involved in everything that's happening. There are times where I am very involved in a situation, and other times that really it's almost like a 30,000-foot flyby. Yeah. And my team, knows when they need to get me involved and when it's okay, we can handle this. So, for myself personally, I want to put people in place that I can trust, that will love the business as much as I do. Mm-hmm. Now, I never expect anybody to work as much as me. Do I have that here? Yeah, I do. I have some folks that are crazy and they spend way too much time here, and God bless them. And I always tell them, go home, go spend some time, go have dinner, do something. But I'm fortunate enough that I've got people that are passionate about the business. And so for me, I do worry about stuff that's not within our control, to understand why it happened and to be able to prepare for it. But ultimately, you've just got to be able to punch through that mud and know that whatever plan you put in place, it's going to be tweaked a little bit. It has to be, because nobody's that good.
Yeah, I love that answer. And to kind of clarify, when I talk about not stressing the things that you don't control, I don't mean that they're not important, but mostly about focusing the energy on things that you can control rather than trying too much to change the things that you don't really have that control on. But definitely they're still important for the planning aspect of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Shifting gears, talking a bit more on kind of the business and the operation side of things. One thing that you mentioned that caught my interest was you talked a bit about tracking repeat rate for the purchase of a product and kind of how that informs the success of a new line of product that you might be launching. Mm-hmm. If you are generally direct to consumer, I imagine that you have a bit more control over tracking that, because maybe, for example, you can see if someone in your CRM, in your account, has made an order to the address and maybe they've done it again, and that's how you know if someone's doing that repeat order. How do you track an individual consumer's, or do you have tips around how to track an individual's repeat rate if you are selling through a distributor or through retail?
Sure. If you're selling through retail, of course, there's all kinds of loyalty data that you have the ability to get your hands on, which is what we do. So we can understand those who have bought us for the first time, those who have bought us, continuously, or those that may be somewhere in between. I tried it once and didn't like it, and I buy this, 4 days a week kind of thing. So we track through loyalty data. We track through shopper and basket data. And then, of course, as you said, on the D2C side, it's much easier because you can track, of course, any kind of repeat purchases. With some of the partnerships we have, with the Home Shopping Network, for instance, we are able to, understand consumers and what their buying is through auto ship and being able to we've got a subscription model. I remember when the team came to me with the subscription model, and again, there's a lot of things out there that you can quote unquote subscribe to, and I said to folks, I was like, all right, if you want, it seems like a lot of work. It blew me away how many people signed up for the subscription model based on what we were offering and how we were offering it. And it's over 2 years old now. And every quarter, it continues to grow and grow and grow. And so, that's one of those moments where you say, good, I'm glad it was somebody smarter than Glenn. and I was at least smart enough to listen to them and go, yeah, okay, let's try it. So, there are multiple ways to do it that you can either purchase the data, because there's plenty of folks out there that can, or you're able to, again, buy the data yourself when it comes to the retail side, the distributor side. Distributor side, really, it's more of you can find out the repeat buying of certain retailers, but you really can't get to the consumer.
Yeah.
I am over focused on the consumer experience. When you will take the D2C, if you're on our website at red-chocolate.com, we when you order from us, we actually put in one of the products you hadn't purchased in the past. So, for instance, if you bought dark chocolate, we'll give you a milk chocolate bar or so on and so forth. We never mix the nuts with it. And so, with that though, we have it's a QR code, and we ask you to hit the QR code with your phone, answer 3 or 4 questions for us, because again, it's we want to know, and the questions are simple. How'd you hear about us? Because, of course, as a company, we want to know, did you hear about us through, one of the social media platforms or from a friend? Was it easy to buy? Because we want to make sure, you go on. We don't want to make it a royal pain. We want you to be able to buy and go and do what you need to do. Number 3 is, did you get it in the time you expected? Again, the delivery. I ordered it last week and I got it this week. That's just a little too long for me, and so we want that. And then 4th, did we live up to your expectations? Yeah. So it's not as though we're trying to, cull this data and understand, where you bought it and blah, it's not those kind of pieces. It's, look, we want to make sure you're happy and satisfied with us because you brought us into your life, and we want to show our appreciation. And by doing that, then you get a discount on your next order, which is great because people, again, in this day, they look for opportunities to be able to save a few dollars. So we're happy to do it because we really appreciate their loyalty, and we want to show. And then when it comes to on the distributor side, as we were talking, we work very close with our distributor partners to understand not only how they deliver to their customers, their partners, but how we can deliver better to them. How do we're always looking for a way to be able to save, because we want to make sure that we can deliver on that financial value. You think about all the crazy things people have been hearing and reading over the last couple of years. I'm proud to say Red Chocolate hasn't taken a single price increase since we came to the U.S. shores. And we felt that was important. We had the same situations that everybody else, large and small, had, but we found ways to be able to build the savings in without having to increase costs.
Great. Thanks for sharing that insight. For the listeners who are not familiar with kind of why I'm honing in on this, the reason why it's an important metric to look at is because at the end of the day, like if you are able to track repeatability of your customers, it helps you understand, quote unquote, what's the lifetime value or the LTV of your customer. And the higher the LTV of your customer, obviously, the more profitable your business is as well. It builds that brand loyalty, but it also really just helps you understand on the financial side of things. Are you making the money, the amount that is worth to recoup that cost of acquiring your customer? So as long as you have good LTV and that exceeds your cost of acquisition, then technically you're in a state where you're printing money, right? But yeah, some other kind of ideas I've seen to throw into the salad bowl. I've seen some companies where they do loyalty programs where, you collect points or you get a certain credit for purchasing X number of product. And that helps tie in the number of purchases to an individual. So then now okay, how many items or how often does this individual purchase your product or service? So yeah, just some random ideas to throw out there.
You're absolutely right. And what you want to do is you want to understand, again, we go back to that value. You want to understand your value to that individual consumer. And the deeper you can get and the relationship that you can build with that consumer, again, truthful, honest relationship. Being a scam artist and just trying to get that next transaction, people are going to push you away. And you can see that even through, when you do email campaigns. Our requests to be pulled from our email campaigns are less than 0.02% on an annual basis. Because when we talk to folks, we want to give them things that are important to them, whether it be recipes, whether it be, the fact that we just launched our chef series. So people can go onto our site and you could watch how you make a beautiful Australian dessert, or you could look at how you make a gorgeous appetizer using our products. So, the idea being, again, we want to add that value to every consumer, and we want them to know that we appreciate them letting us into their lives. You're absolutely right. And you can, you try to understand the cost of acquisition for that consumer. I mean, that's just the P&L of the facts. And then understanding, again, what that consumer can bring to you over, the lifespan of a program. And, we do quite a bit of that data analysis. And honestly, sometimes we look at it and go, you know what? These numbers may not shake out, but it's the right thing to do. And we're going to still do it. And we've done that. And we've been pleasantly surprised most of the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes we said, okay, we should have listened to the numbers.
Yeah. I love that approach, adding value, and through that value add, you're inspiring consumers to think about, I can use this chocolate in this recipe, therefore I'm going to buy more. So you're not technically forcing product on people, but you're inspiring them to want more because you're adding value to them as well.
That's right. It's funny. I tell people all the time, I don't have one boss. I've got 1.3 million bosses in any given week. We've got the consumers are very important to me. And it's funny, one of the first times we were on the Home Shopping Network, I had finished up. And of course, when you're on set, your phone is off and all. And I finished up and I turned my phone on and I saw there was a note from somebody back here in the office. So I called them up and they said, hey, we got a phone call. It said the woman's name and the phone number. I was like, what does she need? And he said, she didn't say, she just wanted to talk to you. It's like, okay. So I pick up the phone and, called her, and, she happened to be a lovely woman out of Florida. And I said, Kay, this is Glenn Gardone. How can I help you? She goes, no, this isn't the Glenn Gardone that was on TV. I'm like, yeah, Kay, this is Glenn Gardone. How can I help you? She's like, I can't believe you took time to call me. I'm like, Kay, I'll talk to anybody who wants to talk to me. Are you kidding? And it's just those moments where you can get that connection. I don't care how much you spend on social media. I don't care what influencer programs you do. I don't care what you do. But if you talk to that consumer and say, so what's on your mind? It's going to go a lot farther.
Great. Just being cognizant of your time, if you would try to condense like some key lessons, what would you say are some common mistakes that early entrepreneurs tend to make in the CPG space?
Oh, I think the biggest mistake is ego. And I've talked to many. I've had the good fortune of not having to work with them, but ego always seems like the biggest. Like, I know best. I'm the one that came up with the idea, blah, blah, blah. Second would be, I work 14 hours a day. If you're going to work for this company, you need to work 14 hours a day. That's not going to happen. You should want to work 14 hours a day. It's your baby. You're trying to build it. That makes sense. So you should always expect to work more. And then number 3, don't believe in your own hype. It's funny, when you sit around a table and everybody's on the quote unquote same payroll and you're all shaking your head, yes. Well, you better be, because you're the ones that came up with the idea. When you start to go out and talk to people who aren't on your payroll, then you're going to get the truth. And so don't believe in your hype and go, well, they don't know what they're talking about. We're perfect. No, No, listen to what they say. So I would say those are my top three. Don't let your ego get the best of you. Surround yourself with smart people. Don't think people are going to work as hard as you do. And if they do, you should be very, very thankful and appreciative to them. And don't think it's expected, because it shouldn't be.
Sound advice. And I'm curious to hear one last answer from you. The first thing you talked about is when you started out in your career, you didn't know what exactly your passion or direction is. I liked how you were very purposeful with still building up the skills necessary to get you to where you would eventually possibly want to go. But yeah, what have you learned about sort of passion or purpose discovery, so to speak, since the many years that you've been on this journey?
Well, again, starting out when I started out and not having that passion, and of course, there's tens of thousands of books about finding your passion and doing your passion and blah, blah, blah. And here I am, this quote unquote wayward soul. And I thought I was different. I thought everybody knew what they wanted to do. And Glenn was the knucklehead in the room and didn't know. And I found out very quickly, no, it's actually the opposite. Those who have found their passion are very fortunate and very lucky. And I want them to drive to as far and as deep as they want to go. But the rest of us, again, enjoy the journey. Know that what you're doing today may not be exactly what you're going to be doing when you find your passion, but take that time and don't think of it as, oh, this is a waste, and bounce around and not really learn. I've got many, many decades of experience, and I know quite a few people that have the same experience every year over many decades and have made the same mistakes and the same screw ups. And so, what I tell people is, look, when you're in that journey, and it's not taking advantage of the company you're working for, it's making them successful because you're part of the company, and you learning and putting it into your little, mind there, and making sure that you've got it saved for a day when you're going to need it, because you're going to grow yourself. And so through the years, I became more and more aware of, what role I played in affecting others, which I never really thought about. I was fortunate to have a coach at one of my organizations. They actually brought somebody on because I was tapped as one of the future leaders of the organization. And again, I'm the kind of person, I honestly don't care what your title is or what you do. Let's have a conversation. Let's chat. And I always just thought of people like that. And when I was in one of my coaching sessions, she had mentioned to me, you do understand that when you walk into a room, you make people nervous. I said, well, me? No, I don't make anybody nervous. She said, no, Glenn. She goes, I'm not talking about your intense personality or, the way you are. I'm talking about your title. And I said, really? And I never really thought about that. And so, I started to understand my role. And it really changed for me, and I'll finish with this story. So we had a holiday party, and I had a whole bunch of people, and there was a person that worked for me, and I was at one of my larger companies. And, she had been with the company about 18 years, and I had heard all this negative stuff about her. Oh, fire her. Oh, do this. Oh, do that. Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Let me find out myself. And so, I called her, and we went to meet. And we were sitting there, and sure enough, man, she was negative and she was nasty. And I'm like, wow, yeah, everybody was spot on. And it's funny, they're so dated, but she was sitting there and she had a beeper on her. Now, my company didn't have beepers. We had cell phones. And so, I asked her, I said, what's the beeper for? Assuming she was going to say, oh, it's a family member and blah, blah, blah. And she said, oh, that my customer. I said, what do you mean your customer? Yeah, my customer, because they can't afford cell phones. So they gave me a beeper. This way they could reach me whenever they need to. I said, really? She goes, yeah, no, it's no big deal. They can call me on a Saturday and blah, blah. And I went, oh my God, I understand what the issue is now. And she had gotten so negative and so beaten down because of what the company had did to her. But in her heart, she still wanted to do right for the company, but ultimately for the customer. And so I took everything away. She became massively successful. And it's funny because her and her husband came to the holiday party, and he came up to me and said, hey, Glenn, I want to thank you. I said, oh, no problem, man. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. And blah, blah. He goes, no. I thank you for the party. I want to thank you, though, for giving me my wife back. And I said, what do you mean? He said, Glenn, that woman bled for this company. And for the last probably 6 years, I've seen her miserable. And I've told her 5,000 times, just quit and go somewhere else. You know, so many people in the industry. And she would always say, no, no, I love the company. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. Now she comes home and she says, you know what? I had an amazing day.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I decided, you know what? My passion is being able to help people grow and accomplish and achieve what they want to. And how can I do that best? And that was by leading organizations and building successful organizations so that people can grow and become what they want to become.
Great answer. And I'll kind of sum it up from at least what I'm also hearing in there as well is not like there are a lot of books and there's a lot of advice out there about go out and find your passion and purpose. But what you say is very true. It's not something that easily comes to most people. And those that do have it or those that stumble across it are quite lucky to find it early, so to speak. But if you do end up in a situation where you're kind of lost or not certain what your passion is yet, what I really notice about you is that you're very purposeful and you make the most out of the time that you have and you don't squander it. So you say, okay, I'm in this situation. Sure, what can I learn from it? How can I add the most value? How can I help lift others around me? So yes, thank you so much for your time. I think it was a really meaningful conversation. If people are interested in learning more about you, more about Red, where can they go to find out more?
The best spot to go is to our website, and that is at red-chocolate.com. And I say that because if you go into the About Us page, you'll see myself there, quite a few of the leadership members there. You click on it, you can send me an email. I tell people all the time, if there's a way that I can help you, I am more than happy to. If I personally can help you, maybe I know somebody that does. So by all means, feel free to reach out to me and let's have a conversation. Again, it's red-chocolate.com.
All right. Thank you, Glenn. Again, you were very generous with your time and your wisdom. So thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.